Welcome to Zoe Stories. Sister caught me in her lingerie and locked the door. It started with a sound I shouldn't have heard. A faint click, not the careless rattle of a doorknob, not the casual noise of someone passing by, but deliberate. A lock sliding into place. I froze, my fingers still clutching the delicate black lace in front of me. It wasn't mine. It wasn't even close to anything I should own. It belonged to my sister, Mia, older by 2 years, sharper in wit, colder in judgment. And the last person I ever wanted catching me like this. But there she was, leaning against the now-locked door, arms crossed, her head tilted slightly, and the kind of smirk that felt like it could slice me open. Mia was still in her workout clothes, black leggings hugging her legs, a fitted sports top that revealed the slightest sheen of sweat on her collarbone. Her hair was pulled into a lazy ponytail, but her eyes, those dark, knowing eyes, were wide awake. "Well," she said, drawing out the word like it was candy she intended to savor. "What exactly do we have here?" I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. My pulse pounded so hard that I could hear it in my ears. It felt like the air in the room had thickened. Every breath was heavier than the last. "And Mia, I can explain," I began, my voice cracking embarrassingly. Her smirk deepened, and she stepped closer. "Can you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my baby brother is holding my favorite lace teddy. And not just holding it, mind you. You were, what? Admiring it? Imagining yourself in it?" I swallowed hard. The heat in my face was unbearable. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me, to undo the last 30 seconds of my life. But the problem was she wasn't screaming. She wasn't storming out to tell Mom and Dad. She was staying. And she'd locked the door. "Why did you lock it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes gleamed. "To make sure we won't be interrupted," she said softly. Then, almost as if she was testing my reaction, she added, "You wouldn't want someone else walking in, would you?" I shook my head quickly.
No.
Of course not. Mia moved even closer, until she was only a foot away. Her presence was magnetic, suffocating, and I could smell the faint mix of her shampoo and the citrus body mist she always used. She plucked the lace teddy from my hand and let her fingers brush deliberately against mine. "You know," she murmured, "I've always wondered how much of your shyness is real and how much is an act. I think I just found my answer." It's not what you think," I stammered. "Oh, I think it's exactly what I think." Her tone was both teasing and razor-sharp, the kind that made my stomach twist in equal parts dread and something I didn't want to name. She held the lingerie up between us, letting the delicate straps dangle. "You have 2 choices," she said finally, as though pronouncing a verdict. "1, you forget this ever happened and I might be tempted to let it go. Or 2, you put this on.
Right now.
In front of me." My eyes widened. "Mia, what? No. That's crazy." "Is it?" she countered, tilting her head again. "Because I'm already thinking about how interesting this could get. And before you decide, you should know if I open that door right now, Mom and Dad are in the living room. I'm sure they'd love to hear why you were in my room, holding my underwear." My stomach dropped. She was blackmailing me. Not loudly, not with shouting or threats, but with that quiet, confident cruelty that I'd always secretly feared she was capable of. I looked at the teddy again. The fabric seemed impossibly small, impossibly fragile. I imagined myself in it, and my chest tightened from fear, shame, maybe something else. Mia's voice softened, almost coaxing now. "You know, you'd probably look adorable. And you're lucky. I can make sure you really pull it off. Hair, makeup, everything. If you're going to wear it, you should wear it properly." I shook my head again, but the conviction was fading. She had me cornered and we both knew it. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. Her smile was unreadable now. "Because," she said simply, "I want to see what happens when you stop pretending." She tossed the teddy onto the bed, the lace fluttering like a trapped butterfly. "Go on.
Change.
Bathroom's there if you want privacy. But if you take more than 5 minutes, I'm coming in." I hesitated, glancing between her and the garment. My hands felt clammy. My throat was dry.
But my feet moved anyway.
The bathroom felt even smaller than usual. I closed the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. The teddy lay draped over my forearm like a dare. I told myself I could still back out. I could open the door, push past her, pretend none of this had ever happened. But even as the thought crossed my mind, I was pulling my shirt over my head. I caught sight of myself in the mirror. Bare-chested, pale, lean. Just me. And then I slipped the teddy over my shoulders. The lace was cool against my skin. A whisper of fabric that clung in places I didn't expect. It was too tight in some areas, loose in others, but it made my body look different. Stranger. Not entirely mine. My breath came faster. I hated the way my heart was racing. I hated how curious I was to see Mia's reaction. When I stepped back into the bedroom, Mia's eyes widened, just for a second. Then her smile returned, slow and deliberate. "Oh," she said, "we're going to have so much fun." And she reached for the makeup bag on her dresser. Mia didn't rush. She never did when she was in control. She moved with the lazy precision of someone who knew every second of delay only made me more nervous. The makeup bag sat in front of her like a treasure chest, zipper half open, revealing a mess of brushes, palettes, tubes, and compacts. Colors, powders, scents, a world I'd never stepped into. I stood frozen, my bare legs trembling slightly against the cool air of her room. The lace teddy clung to me, reminding me with every breath that I wasn't wearing anything underneath. It was thin, almost indecent, and it wasn't lost on me that every movement made it shift in ways I couldn't control. Mia pulled out a tube of lipstick first, a rich, almost sinful shade of deep red. She turned it slowly in her fingers, examining it like a weapon she was about to use. "This," she said softly, "is where it really starts." I swallowed hard. "Mia? I don't think." "You don't have to think," she cut in, her tone both sweet and final. "Just stand still. You're already dressed for the part. Now we just have to give you the right face." She patted the chair in front of her vanity. The same chair I'd seen her sit in 100 times when she did her own makeup before school, before dates, before everything. It felt wrong, impossibly wrong, to sit there. But I did. The mirror was huge, framed in soft lights that cast everything in warm tones. It made the lace look even blacker against my skin, and it made my own reflection feel like a stranger's. Mia stood behind me, hands resting lightly on my shoulders. Her fingers were warm, steady. Too steady. "You know," she murmured, meeting my eyes in the mirror. "I always thought you had delicate features. You hide them under that shaggy hair. But your cheekbones, your jawline, they're wasted on boy clothes."
I didn't respond.
Partly because I didn't know what to say, and partly because she was twisting the lipstick tube open. The scent of it, faintly floral, faintly chemical, hit me instantly. She tilted my chin up with one finger. "Relax your mouth," she instructed. The tone was casual, but it brooked no argument. I did as she said. Her hand was steady as she dragged the color across my lips. And I hated, truly hated, the way my heart jumped at the sensation. It wasn't just the lipstick. It was the way she was looking at me, like I was a project, like she was already picturing the finished product. "Keep still," she murmured. The tip of the lipstick traced the curve of my upper lip, and I could feel her breath on my cheek. For a moment, the room felt too warm. When she stepped back, I caught my reflection. The red was stark against my pale skin, making my lips look fuller, softer.
Wrong.
But Mia wasn't done. Not even close. She moved on to foundation, her fingers brushing against my jaw, blending the product in slow, practiced circles. Every touch felt deliberate. Every pause felt like a test. I could feel the weight of the teddy on me, the pressure of the makeup building, layer after layer, until my skin stopped feeling like mine. "Close your eyes," she said. And when I did, she swept eyeshadow over my lids, warm browns, soft golds. It smelled faintly of vanilla. Her thumb rested lightly against my temple,
Steadying me.
reminding me that I was in her hands. When she finally let me open my eyes, the mirror didn't show me. It showed someone else. The face staring back had lips too red, eyes too soft, skin too smooth. And the lace teddy. God, the teddy. Looked like it belonged now. Mia tilted her head, studying me. Better, she said simply. Then her eyes narrowed with amusement. But you're not finished yet. Stand up. I obeyed, without thinking. She walked slowly around me, like a predator circling prey. Her gaze moved from the straps of the teddy down to my bare feet. She murmured. You're missing something. She disappeared into her closet and returned with a pair of black stilettos. The heels looked impossibly high. I stared at them like they were an execution device. No way, I said. Yes way, she replied, her tone suddenly playful, but underneath, I could hear the steel. You're going to wear these, and you're going to walk for me. The shoes were a nightmare. The moment I stood in them, my balance wavered. Mia caught my arm, steadying me with a grin. Small steps, she coached. Back straight. Hips like this. She demonstrated, her own walk slow, deliberate, her hips swaying naturally. I tried to mimic it, feeling ridiculous. Every step was a reminder of how exposed I was. But Mia clapped once, satisfied. You're a fast learner, she teased. And I think you're ready for a little test. A test? I echoed. She nodded toward the door. We're going downstairs. You're going to walk into the kitchen, and you're going to ask me for a glass of water. Like this is perfectly normal. My stomach dropped. Mia, no. What if? They won't see you, she cut in. Mom and Dad are out. But still, the risk will make it exciting. The look in her eyes told me she wasn't asking. The hallway beyond Mia's bedroom felt like enemy territory. Every shadow seemed deeper, every creak in the floorboards louder than it should have been. The stilettos pinched my feet, the straps of the teddy felt tighter than before, and the red on my lips suddenly seemed to burn. Come on, Mia urged from behind me, her voice light, playful, but her eyes sharp, watching every step. This is easy. Just a little walk. Down the stairs. Into the kitchen. And back. You can handle that, right? I wanted to say no. I wanted to kick the heels off, run back into the safety of her room, and bury this whole humiliating moment in my memory. But her hand pressed lightly against the small of my back, and it was enough to push me forward. The first step was a test in itself. The heel clicked against the wooden floor, a sound I'd only ever heard from her shoes before. And hearing it under me felt wrong. Wrong in a way that made my stomach knot. I kept my eyes down, watching each step like the floor might give way beneath me. Back straight, Mia reminded. And don't look like you're sneaking. You're supposed to own it. I'm not, I started, but she gave me a gentle nudge. Yes, you are. Now go. The staircase yawned ahead of me, each step a potential disaster. The heels wobbled under my weight, and I had to grip the banister just to keep steady. Halfway down, I heard it, a faint rustle from somewhere below. My heart leapt into my throat. Mia, I whispered urgently. I thought you said no one was here. Her smile was maddeningly calm. I said Mom and Dad aren't here. Didn't say anything about anyone else. I froze. What? She leaned in, her lips brushing close to my ear. Keep going, she whispered. The living room came into view first, bathed in soft afternoon light spilling through the curtains. Empty. The kitchen lay just beyond it. I could smell coffee, fresh, warm, and my pulse quickened. If someone was in there, Mia swept past me suddenly, her heels clicking effortlessly. She turned in the doorway to the kitchen, looked back and beckoned me forward. Her grin was wicked. I took a step, then another, the sound of my own heels echoing through the quiet house. Every nerve in my body was on high alert. When I finally reached the kitchen threshold, I saw him. It wasn't Mom. It wasn't Dad. It was Aaron, my sister's best friend. Tall, athletic, wearing a plain t-shirt and jeans. leaning casually against the counter as he scrolled through something on his phone. His hair's a little messy, like he'd just rolled out of bed, and his eyes, when they lifted from the screen, went straight to me. Time stopped. His brow furrowed slightly, but there wasn't recognition in his face, not of me. Instead, there was the kind of curious glance you give a stranger. "Hey," he said slowly, his tone light but uncertain. My brain screamed at me to run, to turn around and bolt up the stairs. But Mia breezed past me, her voice cheerful. "Oh, Erin, you're early. This is a friend. She's staying with us for a bit." I opened my mouth to deny it, to fix this, but Mia's nails dug lightly into my arm, a silent warning. Erin's gaze lingered for a moment longer. Then he gave a small nod.
Cool.
"Nice to meet you." My lips moved automatically. "You too," I mumbled, hating the way my voice cracked halfway through. Mia poured a glass of water and handed it to me like this was all part of some casual afternoon routine. Then she leaned in, close enough for only me to hear.
See?
"That wasn't so hard," she whispered. When we turned to leave, I could still feel Erin's eyes on me. Not suspicious, just watching. And that was somehow worse. Back upstairs, I kicked the heels off the second we entered her room. "What the hell was that?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "That," Mia said calmly, "was your first test. And you passed." "I didn't pass anything." "You fooled him," she interrupted. Her smile widened. "And you looked good doing it." I hated the warmth that flared in my chest at her words. I hated that somewhere, deep down, a small part of me wondered if she was right. I thought the kitchen incident was the worst Mia could throw at me. I thought wrong. The next morning, she was already in my room before I was fully awake. The blinds were open, sunlight spilling across my face, and she was standing there holding a short, pastel pink dress on a hanger. The kind of dress I'd seen her wear to summer parties. The kind of dress that would barely reach mid-thigh. "What is that?" I mumbled, shielding my eyes from the light. "Your outfit for today," she replied simply. She dropped the dress onto my bed and followed it with a pair of nude pantyhose and a small clutch purse. I sat up, rubbing my face. "Today? I'm not." "We're going shopping," she interrupted, her tone leaving no room for negotiation.
Mall day.
"You, me, and a little experiment." I stared at her. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm deadly serious," she said, already moving to my closet to pull out the heels from yesterday. "You passed your first test with Erin. Now we're going to see how you handle strangers. Lots of them." My stomach churned as she did my makeup again. Foundation, blush, soft pink lips this time, but heavier eyeliner and mascara that made my eyes look bigger, more feminine. She pinned my hair back with a floral clip, then tugged the dress over my head. The fabric was light, smooth, hugging in ways that made me painfully aware of every movement. "Pantyhose," she reminded, tossing the package onto my lap. I hesitated, but the look she gave me, equal parts challenge and command, made my fingers tear open the plastic. The silky material clung to my legs like a second skin, and by the time the heels were back on, I could barely recognize myself. The car ride was silent except for the soft hum of the radio. Every mile closer to the mall tightened the knot in my stomach. My legs were crossed automatically, my hands folded over the clutch in my lap, movements that weren't mine, but seemed to happen without thought now. When we pulled into the parking lot, I froze. The mall was packed, weekend crowds, people weaving in and out of the entrance, voices spilling out in a steady stream of noise. There was no way I'd get through this unnoticed. Mia leaned toward me, her eyes glinting. "You're going to walk beside me. No hiding. You're my cousin visiting from out of town. If anyone asks your name, it's Emily." "Emily," I hissed. "Emily," she repeated firmly, before stepping out of the car. The moment I followed her, the air felt different. Cooler from the mall's AC, but heavier with the awareness that dozens of strangers were around me. Every click of my heels on the tiled floor echoed in my ears. Every glance, imagined or real, felt like a spotlight. We passed a group of teenage girls near the entrance. One of them gave me a quick once-over, then whispered something to her friend. They both giggled. My cheeks burned, but Mia didn't even glance at them. Instead, she steered me toward a boutique. The walls were lined with dresses, skirts, racks of shimmering fabric. The air smelled faintly of perfume and new clothes. A saleswoman approached with a bright smile. "Hi there. Can I help you find anything today?" "Yes," Mia said smoothly. "My cousin's visiting, and we're updating her wardrobe." She'd said it so casually, so convincingly, that the saleswoman didn't even blink. Within minutes, I was standing in a dressing room under harsh lights. A pile of dresses waiting to be tried on. Mia leaned against the wall outside, occasionally calling in, "How's it looking, Emily?" The name stung, but I answered every time. When I stepped out in a lavender sundress, the saleswoman clasped her hands. "Oh, that's adorable on you. It really brings out your eyes." Something twisted in my chest. It was embarrassing, humiliating, but a small, traitorous part of me liked the compliment. Mia caught my gaze in the mirror. Her smirk was subtle, but her eyes said it all. "Got you." By the time we left the boutique, I was carrying a shopping bag filled with clothes that weren't mine, and yet they were. Mia linked her arm with mine as we walked back through the crowded mall. "You did good today," she murmured. "Better than I expected." I wanted to deny it. I wanted to tell her this was insane, that I'd never do it again. But the truth was, I wasn't sure if that would be the truth. I used to avoid mirrors. They were just reminders that I wasn't like the guys around me, my frame too slight, my features too soft. But lately they'd been doing something different to me. The reflection that looked back at me now was no longer Alex the guy, awkwardly wearing a skirt. It was, well, someone softer. The layers of makeup Chloe had taught me to apply weren't just surface decoration. They seemed to pull out a version of me that had been hiding in the shadows. The eyeliner made my eyes bigger, more expressive. The lip gloss shimmered under the bathroom light. My hair, grown out a few inches over the past weeks, was framing my face in a way that made my cheekbones stand out. I told myself it was just practice for Chloe's fashion experiments, but deep down, I knew I was lingering in front of the glass longer than necessary. It wasn't just Chloe noticing either. At school, people were staring more. Girls whispered to each other. Guys gave me confused looks, sometimes lingering longer than felt comfortable. One afternoon in the cafeteria, I caught a guy from my math class staring at me like he was trying to figure out what I was. I looked away quickly, my stomach nodding. When I told Chloe about it, she just smirked. "You see? You're turning heads without even trying," she said. "That's power, Alex. The kind most people never get." But it didn't feel like power. It felt like I was losing my grip on who I was. And yet, a part of me didn't want to stop. I never liked mirrors. Even as a kid, I'd avoid catching my reflection in store windows. It wasn't just self-consciousness. It was the fact that looking at myself felt like staring at a puzzle that didn't quite fit together. Too narrow shoulders for a boy. Skin too smooth. Jawline soft, chin rounded. I wasn't handsome in the way other guys were, and I wasn't cute in the way girls could be. I was just somewhere in between, a place where no one wanted to be. But lately, the mirror had been talking back to me. That night, I found myself in front of my bedroom mirror again. The old hoodie and sweatpants were gone. Instead, I was wearing one of the skirts Mia had accidentally left on my desk earlier in the week. A soft lavender thing that brushed just above my knees. My hands trembled slightly as I traced the hem, feeling the cool, featherlight fabric between my fingers. It didn't feel wrong the way I thought it would. It felt dangerously normal. Then my eyes moved upward, to my face. Foundation smoothed out every uneven patch of skin. The faint blush on my cheeks made me look alive in a way bare skin never had. Mascara curled my lashes upward, making my eyes look wider, almost startled, or innocent. My lips, glossy and faintly pink, parted slightly as I stared. They didn't look like my lips. They looked like someone else's. Someone prettier. I leaned closer. My pulse was loud in my ears, a steady drumbeat that made the moment feel heavier than it should. This wasn't just me in girls' clothes. This wasn't pretend. It was like my reflection had stopped belonging to me and started belonging to this other version. One who tilted her head slightly to look cuter. One whose posture straightened without conscious thought. One who smiled, soft and almost shy. I didn't know her name, but I knew I couldn't stop looking at her. When I finally pulled back from the mirror, it wasn't because I wanted to. It was because I heard footsteps in the hall. Mia's voice, humming casually. The door cracked open, and she poked her head in, her eyes instantly finding me. She didn't laugh.
She didn't tease.
She just smiled slowly, a knowing, dangerous smile that felt like a hook sinking into my chest. "You're getting there," she murmured. And then she shut the door again. The words stuck with me all night. Getting there. As if this was a destination. As if there was a finish line I was unconsciously walking toward. And worst of all, a part of me was starting to want to see what was on the other side. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the blinds, my heart pounding before I even opened my eyes.
Today was the day.
Not just another makeup lesson or dress fitting. Delilah was taking me out. In public. As her. She entered my room holding a soft pink dress with a flared skirt, a matching purse, and a delicate gold necklace. "Time to shine, princess," she said with a smile that was equal parts encouragement and command. I wanted to protest, to say I wasn't ready, but she was already pulling me into the chair and beginning my makeup. Her brush strokes were precise, almost reverent. "You have to own it," she whispered, meeting my eyes in the mirror. "If you act like you belong, everyone will believe you." When she finished, I barely recognized myself. The girl staring back was beautiful, terrifyingly beautiful. My voice caught in my throat. Outside, the summer air hit me like a wave, and every step in my heeled sandals felt like a drumbeat announcing my presence. We walked into a small cafe, and I could feel eyes on me. Some curious, some admiring, some that lingered just a little too long. Delilah ordered for both of us without missing a beat, calling me by my new name like it had always been mine. I laughed nervously, sipping my latte, trying to remember to cross my legs and keep my hands graceful. Then, as I glanced toward the counter, I froze. Standing there, coffee in hand, was someone from my old life, someone who would instantly recognize me if they looked too closely. Our eyes met. The soft chime of the cafe's door opening was something I wouldn't normally notice. But that morning, every sound felt amplified. The click of my heels on the tiled floor. The low hum of chatter blending with the espresso machine's hiss. The faint clink of a spoon against porcelain. And then, the doorbell's sweet chime cutting through it all. I didn't look up at first. I was too focused on stirring my latte in small, slow circles the way Delilah had told me. Graceful wrists, not clumsy stirs. But something made my chest tighten. A shift in the air. The way Delilah's eyes flicked toward the entrance and then back to me, her smile sharpening like a blade. I looked, and my stomach dropped. It was Ryan. Ryan Coleman. We'd sat next to each other in history class for 2 years. The kind of guy who could remember the date of every major battle, but not his homework. We weren't friends exactly, but we'd shared enough sarcastic exchanges to be more than strangers. He was standing at the counter, a to-go cup in hand, his easy posture and messy hair unchanged. But his gaze was scanning the cafe casually, until it landed on me. I froze. Every muscle in my body went rigid, as if stillness alone could make me invisible. But his brow furrowed. Not in immediate recognition. More like someone catching a familiar scent they couldn't quite place. My pulse hammered in my ears. I could feel the blush blooming under my foundation. And for the first time, I hated how much makeup made it obvious. Delilah leaned in, her voice a silk thread against my ear. "Breathe. You're not Alex right now. You're her. And she has nothing to hide." Easy for her to say. She wasn't the one sitting across from someone who could rip the mask off with a single word. Underscore 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 underscore. Ryan took a sip of his coffee, his eyes still on me, and then he started walking over. The tiny cafe suddenly felt suffocating, the air thick with heat and the faint scent of cinnamon from the pastries. Each step he took echoed in my skull. I shifted in my seat, crossing my legs like Delilah had taught me, hands folded neatly in my lap to hide their trembling. Hey, Ryan said as he reached our table. His voice was warm, casual, but curious. I know this is going to sound weird, but have we met? Delilah was faster than me. She looked up with an easy smile. This is Ally, she said smoothly, her tone leaving no room for correction. She's my cousin, just visiting for the summer. Ryan's eyes flicked between us, and then back to me. I forced a small, polite smile, the kind that didn't show teeth. Hi, I said softly, pitching my voice higher than normal. Something in his expression shifted. Recognition wavered. Just enough to make me hope he'd let it go. Well, welcome, he said finally. Nice to meet you. He gave me one last look, longer than necessary before heading for the door. The bell chimed again as he left. My hands unclenched from my lap, nails leaving crescent marks in my skin. Delilah's smile never wavered.
See?
You survived, she murmured. Then, after a beat, and you looked beautiful doing it. The word beautiful lodged in my chest like a secret I didn't know how to feel about. I thought the day would end once the bell rang. But no, Rhea had other plans. As soon as we stepped out of school, she grabbed my arm, steering me toward the marketplace. Her grip was firm, almost like she was afraid I'd run away. Where are we going? I asked, my voice trembling. You'll see, she said, smiling in that same mysterious way that had been haunting me all day. We ended up at a small boutique filled with soft pastel dresses, delicate blouses, and skirts that swished like whispers. I froze in the doorway.
No.
No way, I said. Oh, come on, she teased. A real dare isn't just for school hours. I should have walked away right then. I should have told her she'd had her fun, and it was over. But deep down, something kept me rooted in place. Maybe the curiosity of where this was going, maybe the dangerous thrill of being noticed. Before I knew it, I was standing in a dressing room, the thin curtain barely shielding me from the rest of the store. She kept handing me outfit after outfit, skirts, stockings, even a frilly blouse with ribbons at the collar. Rhea, this is crazy, I whispered. She leaned close, her breath warm on my ear. You said you'd do anything for that kiss. It hit me then she wasn't just having fun. She was testing me, pushing me to see how far I'd go. And I was failing at saying no. When I finally stepped out, wearing a light lavender dress that floated just above my knees, she gasped. Not in mockery, not in pity, but in something else, something that made my pulse race. You look perfect, she murmured. And for the first time that day, I didn't know if I was still playing her game, or if I had already lost myself in it. The boutique's air smelled faintly of lavender and pressed cotton, a delicate perfume that clung to the dresses and, now, to me. I stood there in front of the mirror near the changing room, my reflection framed by rows of pastel fabrics on either side. The light from above wasn't harsh. It softened everything. The curve of my cheeks, the slope of my shoulders, the way the skirt fanned out just enough when I shifted my weight. I told myself I was still me under all of it, but the boy in my head was getting quieter. Rhea was circling me like an artist inspecting her finished painting. Her eyes were sharp, analytical, but her lips were curled in that small, satisfied smile that made my stomach twist.
Spin, she said simply. And I did.
The skirt caught the air, a light whoosh as the fabric lifted, barely brushing the tops of my thighs. My skin tingled where the cool air touched it. She tilted her head, studying me like she was seeing more than just a body in a dress. "You're ready." Ready for what?
I wanted to ask.
But I didn't, because she was already moving toward the counter, card in hand. When we stepped outside, the world hit me in a rush. The warmth of the late afternoon sun, the faint smell of street food from a cart nearby, and the steady hum of people moving through the market. It was supposed to be familiar.
But now,
Every sound felt louder. Every pair of eyes felt like it lingered on me a second too long. I told myself they were just curious about the dress. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the whole truth. Rial walked half a step ahead of me, occasionally glancing back to make sure I was keeping pace. Her stride was effortless, hips swaying just enough to seem natural. I caught myself mimicking it without thinking, the soft sway of my own skirt brushing against my legs with each step. We passed a group of teenagers leaning against a shop wall. One of them let out a low whistle. Another murmured something I couldn't catch. But the way they were all grinning made my cheeks burn. My instinct was to lower my head, to make myself small. But Riya's hand suddenly slid into mine, her grip firm, almost protective. "Keep your chin up," she whispered, not looking at me. "They're not worth your energy. Besides, you're prettier when you own it." The word prettier lodged somewhere deep, in a place I didn't know was vulnerable. Halfway down the street, we stopped at a crosswalk. The reflection in the shop window beside us caught my eye. Not a boy in borrowed clothes, but someone who almost belonged in them. The thought made my chest tighten. Not in panic, in something far more dangerous. By the time we reached the quieter part of my neighborhood, I was exhausted. Not physically, but from the constant awareness of my body, the sway of the skirt, the click of my shoes against the pavement, the way the air kissed my legs where the hem floated. At my door, Riya leaned close, her breath warm against my cheek. "You did good today," she said softly. Then, with that same smirk that had started all this, "Tomorrow, we'll take it further." And just like that, she was gone, leaving me in the doorway, heart still pounding, the word further echoing in my head like a promise or a threat. I could barely breathe. My heart wasn't pounding anymore, it was thudding, slow and heavy, like my body had accepted that this was no longer a game or a prank. Her sister's hand lingered on my jaw, thumb brushing my cheek as she studied me like a piece of art she was sculpting. "You see," she whispered, almost to herself, "no one will even remember who you were before." I wanted to protest, to tell her I wasn't some doll for her to play with, but the mirror stole my voice again. The boy who used to wear hoodies and messy hair was gone. The girl staring back was delicate, composed, perfect. She reached into a velvet box and pulled out a thin gold chain with a small heart pendant. "Every perfect girlfriend needs something sentimental," she said, fastening it around my neck. Her fingers lingered on the back of my collarbone, and the faint perfume on her wrists enveloped me. I finally found my voice. Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice trembling, not because of the situation, but because it sounded different now.
Softer.
Sweeter. Her lips curved into a knowing smirk. "Because," she said, stepping back to admire her work, "you were never meant to be him. You're better this way. And I'm going to make sure everyone sees it." The weight of her words settled in my chest. She didn't just want to dress me up. She wanted to erase the old me entirely. I thought I'd seen everything over the past few days. The skirts, the lipstick, the curling iron burns on my ears. But this moment was different. Delilah had been unusually quiet as she worked on me tonight. No teasing, no sarcastic jabs. She just hummed softly while curling the last section of my hair into soft, bouncy waves. When she finally stepped back, she didn't tell me to look right away. She just adjusted the hem of my skirt, tugged gently at my blouse so it draped perfectly, then stepped behind me. "Okay," she said finally, her voice low. "Turn around." I turned toward the full-length mirror. The breath caught in my throat. She had made me into a costume version of a girl this time. There was no exaggeration, no over-the-top makeup or silly bows. Everything was soft.
Real.
My hair framed my face naturally. My makeup was warm and subtle. My clothes were stylish, but casual. I didn't look like I was pretending anymore. I looked like a young woman who had always been this way. And that terrified me. "That's not me," I whispered, though my own voice betrayed me. It was higher, lighter, almost shy. Delilah smiled in the mirror's reflection. "It's you when you stop fighting it." I felt my heart thud. Because she was right, and I hated that she was right. She stepped closer, her hand resting gently on my shoulder. "You've been wearing the skirts, the heels, the gloss, but tonight? Tonight, you're her. The girl you've been pretending to be is finally real." I couldn't look away from my reflection. I saw the way my eyes shone differently, how my smile, unconscious, unguarded, softened my features. A cold, electric fear ran through me. If I could look this real, this convincing, then maybe I could be her. Not for a joke, not for a bet, just be her. And that thought scared me more than anything Delilah had done to me so far. Delilah's hand was still on my cheek, her eyes locked on mine, reading me like an open book. "You've been holding your breath since you walked in," she whispered, her voice dripping with that playful yet knowing tone she always used when she wanted to push me further. "You're terrified, and I love it." I swallowed hard, my pulse hammering. "I'm not," I started, but the lie caught in my throat. I was terrified. My reflection in the mirror wasn't me. It was a softer, almost unrecognizable version of myself. Smooth foundation, a hint of blush, lashes that made my eyes look way too expressive. "You think this is the end of it?" she asked, tilting her head with a sly grin. "Oh no, sweetheart. We've barely started." She stepped back, gesturing toward the bed, where a black garment bag lay half open. Inside, I caught glimpses of fabric, rich satin, delicate lace. My stomach twisted into knots. "What is that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Delilah didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked over with deliberate slowness, unzipping the bag fully. Out spilled the contents: a short, form-fitting skirt in deep burgundy, a silky blouse with pearl buttons, and, my breath hitched, a pair of black stiletto heels that looked like they could kill a man. My instinct was to step back, but Delilah's smirk stopped me cold. "You're going to wear all of it," she said, her tone leaving no room for negotiation. "And you're going to own it." "I can't." "Yes, you can," she cut in smoothly. "You just don't want to admit how much you want to see yourself like this." The silence between us stretched, broken only by the sound of my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I wanted to deny it, to insist that this was her idea, her game. But deep down, in the part of me I didn't want to face, there was a flicker of something else.
Curiosity.
Delilah leaned closer, her lips brushing my ear. "The sooner you stop fighting, the sooner you'll see what I already know. You look beautiful like this." I closed my eyes, my hands curling into fists, torn between wanting to run and wanting to see the version of myself she seemed so certain existed. When I opened them again, the clothes were in my hands. The next 2 weeks felt like living in a strange dream, one I couldn't wake up from. Except it wasn't a dream. It was real. And every morning I woke up in her guest room, surrounded by the floral scent of her perfume, the faint shimmer of her vanity mirror, and the reality that I was now her project. Her words from that first night still echoed in my mind. "I'll make you perfect. You'll thank me later." She called it training, but it felt more like conditioning. The way she'd sit across from me at breakfast, perfectly composed, her eyes scanning every detail, posture, makeup, the way I lifted my coffee cup, it made me feel like I was under constant surveillance. She'd take me shopping every afternoon, insisting that every outfit we bought had to tell a story. Some days I was the sweet, shy girl next door in soft pastel dresses. Other days I was the bold, confident seductress in tight skirts and heels that made my calves ache. And sometimes she'd pick outfits, so revealing I'd stare at myself in the fitting room mirror, cheeks burning, wondering how I could possibly walk out in public like that. But she had a way of making me do it. She'd smile, tilt her head, and say softly, "Remember, you're mine now." My perfect girlfriend wouldn't hesitate. And I wanted to resist. I really did. But the truth? A part of me was starting to crave her approval. It was subtle at first, catching myself adjusting my hair the way she liked, smoothing my skirt when she frowned, smiling more when she praised me. But by the end of that second week, I noticed something terrifying. I wasn't just playing the role anymore. I was starting to feel like her perfect girlfriend. By the end of the week, I thought the fun little challenge would be over. I'd done everything Emma asked, wearing her skirts, putting on her makeup, and even practicing her walk. I figured she'd be satisfied and maybe give me a playful pat on the back before we moved on. But Emma had other plans. Friday afternoon, she cornered me in her bedroom, her smile bright but dangerous. "Ryan," she began, dragging out my name in a sing-song voice. "I've been thinking." Those 3 words sent alarm bells ringing in my head. "What is it now?" I asked cautiously. She leaned forward, resting her chin in her hands. "You've been doing so well as a girl. Better than I expected. Honestly, I think you might actually pull this off in public." I froze. Public. Emma's grin widened. "There's a party tomorrow night. Lots of my friends will be there, people who don't know you. I think it would be the perfect time for you to test your skills as Emma's cousin." My stomach dropped.
No.
"No way. The bet was just to wear your skirt once. I've already done more than enough." She stood up, cutting me off. "A bet is a bet, Ryan. And remember, I still have those pictures." The way she said it made my blood run cold. I'd almost forgotten. Photos of me in her frilliest dress, with pigtails and pink lipstick, were sitting on her phone. If she wanted to, she could send them to anyone, and my life would be over. I swallowed hard. "You wouldn't." Emma's eyes sparkled. "Oh, I would, unless you keep playing along." I hated the way she had me trapped. My pride told me to fight back, but the rational part of my brain knew she had all the power. She must have sensed my hesitation because she walked over, draped an arm over my shoulder, and whispered, "Don't worry, Ryan. I'll make you perfect for tomorrow night. You'll have every guy in the room looking at you, and no one will ever guess the truth." She said it like a promise and a threat all at once.
I didn't sleep much that night.
Every time I closed my eyes, I picture myself standing in a crowded room in one of her dresses, heels digging into my feet, heart racing as strangers looked at me. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a terrifying thought took root. What if I didn't just look convincing? What if I started to feel like I was her? The morning sunlight was harsh, but inside Mia's room, the light was soft, filtered through sheer curtains that diffused it like a dream. I sat on the edge of the bed, heart pounding so loud I was sure she could hear it. Mia stood in front of me, arms crossed, eyes sharp and commanding, not like a sister, but more like a queen about to crown her new favorite subject. "You ready?" she asked, voice low but laced with amusement. I nodded, though my throat felt dry, my mouth barely able to form words. She smiled, that dangerous, triumphant smile I'd come to both fear and crave. "I'm going to make sure you're the star of that party," she said. "And when you walk in there, no one will ever guess you're not who you say you are." I wanted to run, but it was too late. The transformation began slowly. She pulled out a dress from the closet, black, sleek, hugging every curve she knew I didn't have but was determined to fake. Her fingers were gentle but firm as she helped me into it. Then the makeup. She worked the brushes like an artist, sculpting my face with foundation and contour, adding shimmer to my eyes and a bold red lipstick that made me flinch. "Look at me," she commanded once the work was done. I lifted my eyes to meet hers in the mirror and almost didn't recognize the girl staring back. She had become her, the perfect version Mia wanted me to be. That night, stepping into the party, the world felt electric. Eyes followed me, whispers floated through the crowded room, but Mia's hand in mine steadied me. She whispered, "You're mine tonight. Remember that." But somewhere deep inside, a part of me was starting to wonder, was I still myself? The music was loud, the kind that vibrated through your bones and made every heartbeat feel like a drum. I clung to Mia's arm as we entered the room, my heels clicking sharply on the polished floor. People turned to look, whispers swirling like a current around me. I forced myself to smile, to keep my shoulders back, to act like I belonged. Mia squeezed my hand and whispered, "Perfect. Just like I told you." But then I saw him, Mark. The guy I'd known since childhood, the one who had always teased me for being too soft, not enough of a guy. His eyes locked on me, and a slow smile spread across his face, not friendly, but amused. He pushed through the crowd and stopped right in front of me. "Hey you," he said, voice low and deliberate. "You look different. Who's this?" I glanced at Mia, panic bubbling under my skin. She smiled sweetly and said, "This is Ally, my cousin. New in town." Mark raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced. "Cousin, huh? You sure she's not just wearing a costume?" A nervous laugh bubbled from my throat. Mia stepped forward, her eyes cold now. "Be careful what you say, Mark." The tension thickened, and I felt trapped. Was this the moment the mask slipped? Would he see through me? But Mark just shrugged, a hint of a smirk still playing on his lips.
"All right, Ally.
"I'll bite. Let's see what you've got." And with that, he turned away, leaving me shaken but strangely exhilarated. The music pulsed through the crowded room like a living thing, vibrating the very air I breathed. Every laugh, every shout, every clinking glass was amplified and somehow charged with tension. I could feel eyes on me, some admiring, some curious, some hostile, but all of them making me shrink inward. Mia stood beside me, flawless and unbothered, like she was the queen of the night, and I was her precious pawn. Her hand was warm on my back, steadying me as I tried to keep my balance on these unfamiliar heels. The burgundy dress clung tight, reminding me with every step how far I'd fallen into this new world, a world I didn't quite belong to, yet was slowly swallowing me whole. I wanted to disappear, to retreat into the shadows and escape the gazes burning into me like spotlights. But Mia whispered in my ear, "Hold your head high. Remember, you're not just anyone, you're mine." Her words wrapped around me like chains, both comforting and suffocating. She smiled that predatory smile, the one that promised control, dominance, and no escape. I felt a surge of panic pulse through my chest. I tried to breathe deeply, steady myself, but my fingers were trembling as I clutched her hand. Then it happened. Mark, the boy who had haunted my past with whispered insults and cruel jokes, approached again. His face was set in a teasing smirk, eyes flickering with a dangerous mix of amusement and disbelief. "You're really pulling this off, huh?" His voice was low but carried easily across the small circle that had gathered. Mia stepped forward like a lioness protecting her cub, but I couldn't help the words tumbling from my mouth before she could stop me. "I'm not pretending anymore," I said, voice barely above a whisper but carrying more conviction than I felt. The crowd quieted, eyes darting between us like sparks ready to ignite. Mark's expression shifted, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. Maybe respect? Maybe confusion? "You're braver than I thought," he said finally, his tone grudgingly admiring. That was the first time I felt a sliver of strength, the fragile feeling that maybe I could survive this night. That maybe I could be this new version of myself without breaking completely. But the victory was short-lived. As the night deepened, Mia pulled me away from the crowd and into a quieter corner. Her eyes bored into mine, icy and sharp.
"Good," she said.
"But don't forget who's in charge." Her hand gripped my jaw, forcing me to look at her. "You don't get to decide when this ends." I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. The weight of her words crushed me. I wanted to fight back, to scream and run, and reclaim the boy I used to be. But the truth was, every time I looked in a mirror or felt the sway of my skirt, a part of me was already lost. That part whispered that maybe this was who I was supposed to be now. The rest of the party blurred into a haze of whispered commands and forced smiles. I laughed when Mia told me to laugh.
I danced when she said dance.
Every movement was choreographed to keep up the illusion, my illusion, her control. When the party finally ended, Mia walked me home, her grip firm but gentle. "I'm proud of you," she said softly. I wanted to believe her, but all I could feel was hollow, like a shell worn over my broken self. Alone in my room, I finally let the mask slip. I sat in front of my mirror, fingers tracing the smooth curve of my cheek. The makeup was still fresh, the lipstick vibrant. But beneath it all, I felt numb. I didn't recognize the person staring back. Was this me? Or just another reflection of Mia's design? Tears stung my eyes, and I blinked them away. I wasn't sure if I was crying because I was scared or because a part of me was starting to like this new me. That was my breaking point. A storm of emotions, fear, confusion, shame, and a strange, dangerous hint of pride. And deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. The morning after the party, I woke with a heavy fog draped over my mind. My limbs felt weak, as if the night's masquerade had drained not just my energy, but pieces of my identity. I sat at the edge of the bed, fingers nervously tracing the hem of the dress I'd worn. The fabric was soft, but to me, it was a shackle. Mia was already awake, moving around her room with an ease I envied. She didn't just wear the role of dominant sister. She owned it, breathed it, lived it. And I was slowly learning that I was trapped in the role of her perfect little project. She approached me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Ready for today?" she asked, voice casual but edged with something sharp, a warning, perhaps. I nodded, forcing a smile. "What's the plan?" She pulled a small envelope from her dresser drawer. A new invitation. Inside was a card, glossy and elegant, a formal invitation to a charity gala in the city. "A whole new stage," Mia said, her eyes gleaming. "And this time, everyone will be watching." My heart sank. Public? Gala? Fancy dresses? Cameras? Do I have a choice? I asked, voice cracking slightly. Mia laughed softly, the sound cold and playful. "You always have a choice, Alex. But every choice has a consequence." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Show up as the girl you've become, or I make sure everyone knows the truth." The word truth echoed in the room like a guillotine's blade. Days blurred as Mia prepared me for the gala. Makeup lessons stretched into hours. Walking in heels became a daily torment. Voices echoed in my head, some hers, some mine, but mostly hers commanding. I caught myself in mirrors more and more, sometimes forcing a smile, sometimes hating the girl looking back. At night, I cried in silence, mourning the boy I was losing, or maybe had already lost. But the morning of the gala, as Mia handed me a shimmering emerald gown, the only thought I had was, I have no escape. Stepping into the limousine that would take us downtown, I felt like I was slipping beneath the surface of a dream I didn't want to live. Mia took my hand, squeezing it tightly. "This is your moment," she whispered. "And after tonight, there's no going back." The city lights sparkled outside the window, bright, beautiful, and utterly merciless. I swallowed hard and nodded. The noose was tightening, and I was trapped in its grasp. The limousine door slid open with a soft whoosh, and the cool night air hit me like a slap. City lights glittered like stars, but all I felt was the weight of every eye that might fall on me tonight. Mia stepped out first, radiating confidence in a stunning silver gown that caught the light with every step. I followed, the hem of my emerald dress swishing softly, my heels clicking on the polished marble steps. The grand entrance of the gala was a whirl of flashing cameras, hushed whispers, and glittering faces. I felt like a deer caught in headlights, exposed, vulnerable, and utterly alone. Mia held my arm tight, guiding me like a queen showing off her prized jewel. "Smile," she whispered. "Be perfect." Inside, the room buzzed with elite chatter and the soft clink of champagne glasses. I tried to hold my head high, but the whispers started almost immediately. "Who's the new girl?" "She's stunning." "Is she a model?" Each compliment felt like a double-edged sword, admiration wrapped in suspicion. Then, out of nowhere, a familiar voice cut through the murmur. "Alex." My breath caught. Turning slowly, I found myself face to face with Jason, a guy from my college, someone who knew me before all this madness. His eyes widened, disbelief and confusion flickering across his face. "Is that really you?" he asked, voice low but urgent. Panic surged. Mia's grip tightened on my arm, her eyes flashing warning. "This is Ally," she said smoothly, her tone sharp as a whip. My cousin. New to the city. Jason's gaze lingered, doubt etched deep. I don't believe you, he whispered, stepping closer. The room seemed to shrink around me. I was trapped between two worlds, the boy I was and the girl I was forced to be. Mia's voice was cold. Enough, she said, pulling me away. Don't make a scene. But Jason's words echoed in my mind. Is that really you? For a moment, I wondered if I could just run, disappear into the night, and leave this all behind. But the truth was clear. There was no escaping Mia. Not yet. The limousine door opened with a soft hiss, and the night air rushed in like a cold wave, snapping me awake from the daze I'd been drifting in. Outside, the city glittered in 1,000 lights, a tapestry of glamour and illusion that felt both intoxicating and terrifying. Mia stepped out first, poised and graceful in a shimmering silver gown that hugged her slender frame. The fabric caught the glow of the street lamps, reflecting flecks of light like stars around her. She was a queen in this world, confident, untouchable, and commanding. I followed hesitantly, the emerald dress Mia had chosen for me brushing softly against my thighs as I moved. The heels were high, painfully so, but I forced my feet to obey. Each step felt like a performance, each click on the marble stairs echoing like a drumbeat announcing my arrival. The grand entrance to the gala was a whirlwind of flashing cameras, elegant laughter, and murmurs of intrigue. I felt the weight of hundreds of eyes falling on me, dissecting every detail. Who was this girl? What was her story? Mia's hand was firm on my elbow, steadying me, anchoring me to the moment. Her voice was low but sharp in my ear. Smile. Be perfect. I nodded, plastering on a practiced smile that felt brittle and fake. Inside, the ballroom glittered like a palace, chandeliers dripping crystals, tables draped in ivory silk, and guests dressed in their finest attire. The air smelled faintly of roses and expensive perfume. I swallowed hard, trying to blend in, to become someone else, someone Mia had crafted. Whispers floated through the room, carried on the hum of conversations. Who's the new girl? She's stunning. Is she a model? Each compliment was a knife, cutting through my fragile facade. They didn't know me. They couldn't see past the makeup and dress. Then, like a crack in glass, a voice cut through the murmur. Alex. My breath caught in my throat. I froze. Turning slowly, my heart pounding, I saw Jason. Jason, the guy from college. The one who knew the boy I used to be. His eyes widened in shock, then narrowed as he searched my face for the truth. Is that really you? He asked, voice low but urgent. I wanted to disappear. To explain. To scream. But all I could do was stand there, frozen, the mask of ally slipping for just a second. Mia's grip tightened on my arm. Her eyes flashed with warning, sharp, dangerous. This is Ally, she said smoothly, voice cold as ice. My cousin. New to the city. Jason's gaze didn't waver. I don't believe you, he whispered, stepping closer. The world tilted. I was caught between two realities. The boy I was, and the girl Mia was forcing me to become. The room around us seemed to fade away, replaced by the roaring chaos in my mind. Run. Hide. Fight. None of it worked. Mia's voice cut through the noise, sharp and commanding. Enough, she snapped, pulling me away from Jason's piercing gaze. Don't make a scene. I felt a wave of humiliation crash over me. All eyes seemed to settle on us now. The curious, the judgmental, the entertained. Jason's voice lingered in my mind like a haunting melody. Is that really you? Later, in the quiet of the limousine ride home, the tension finally broke. I sat slumped in the plush leather seat, the glittering city lights fading behind us. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, exhaustion, shame, and a profound sense of loss swirling inside me. Mia was silent for a moment, then said softly, You did well tonight. I wanted to believe her, but all I felt was empty. Why are you doing this to me? I finally whispered, voice cracking. Her eyes softened for just a moment. Because I see who you really are. and I'm helping you become her. That night, alone in my room, I faced the mirror again. The girl looking back was flawless, radiant even. But beneath the surface, I felt hollow and fractured. I touched my face, traced the curve of my jaw, the softness of my lips. Was this me? Or just a reflection of Mia's control? Why are you doing this to me? I finally whispered, voice cracking. Her eyes softened for just a moment. Because I see who you really are, and I'm helping you become her. That night, alone in my room, I faced the mirror again. The girl looking back was flawless, radiant even. But beneath the surface, I felt hollow and fractured. I touched my face, traced the curve of my jaw, the softness of my lips. Was this me? Or just a reflection of Mia's control? The question burned deep inside, unanswered and painful. The days after the gala were a strange blur, part waking nightmare, part surreal dream. I moved through my routine like a ghost, going through the motions Mia demanded, but feeling more disconnected from myself with every step. In the quiet moments alone, the silence was deafening. I'd stare into the mirror for hours, searching for a glimpse of the boy I used to be beneath the layers of makeup, the carefully styled hair, the delicate clothes. But all I saw was her, Ally, the perfect girl Mia had created. One night, I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching an old photo album I'd snuck out of my room weeks ago. Pages filled with pictures of me laughing with friends, playing basketball, just being me, before all this began. Tears blurred the images, and I pressed my forehead against the worn paper. Was that boy gone? Could I ever find him again? Mia's voice echoed in my head, part comfort, part command. You're stronger than you think. You're not just playing a part. You're becoming who you're meant to be. But the harder she pushed, the more I felt myself slipping away. At school, things were changing too. Friends who once teased me now looked puzzled, unsure how to treat this new version of me. Some whispered behind my back. Others stared openly. Jason avoided me, his eyes filled with unspoken questions. And I was stuck in the middle, caught between two worlds, neither fully mine. Mia's control tightened with every passing day. She scheduled my outfits, chose my words, even coached my expressions in the mirror. You're mine, she'd say softly, and I won't let you go. One evening, after a particularly brutal day of rehearsals and lessons, I broke down. Collapsing on the floor of her room, I sobbed uncontrollably, the weight of it all crushing me. Mia knelt beside me, her face softening for a moment as she pulled me close. I'm here, she whispered. Together, we'll make this work. But as I lay there, tangled in her arms, I realized something terrifying. Maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't just pretending anymore. Maybe I was lost. Days folded into nights, each one blending seamlessly into the next, as if time itself conspired to trap me in this endless cycle. The mirror no longer offered escape. It was a relentless judge, reflecting not just my image, but the fracture widening inside my soul. Mia's presence was a constant shadow, sometimes tender, sometimes ruthless, guiding, controlling, reshaping me with hands both gentle and unyielding. I found myself at a crossroads, one I never wanted to face but couldn't avoid.
Fight.
To claw back to the boy I was, to reclaim my name, my body, my identity. But every fight left me bruised, exhausted, and gasping for breath in a world that seemed set against me. Or surrender. To embrace Ally, to become the girl Mia insisted I was meant to be, to wear the skin she crafted with such precision. But surrender meant losing everything I thought I was. One evening, Mia sat across from me, her eyes calm but penetrating. I need to know, she said softly. Which side are you on? Her words echoed through the quiet room like a verdict. I hesitated, the weight of the question crushing me. If I chose to fight, would she let me go? If I surrendered, would I ever find myself again? Tears welled as the storm inside me raged. For the first time, I saw her not as a captor, but as the architect of my fate.
The choice was mine.
But the path forward was shrouded in shadows. The night was silent except for the slow, steady beat of my heart. In front of the mirror, I stood still, dressed in the softest pastel dress Mia had chosen, hair curled perfectly, makeup flawless. Ally stared back at me, eyes shining with a mixture of fear, confusion, and something like hope. Mia's voice was gentle behind me.
"It's time," she said softly.
"Who do you want to be?" The question hit me like a thunderclap. The boy I had been felt distant, almost like a stranger. The girl I had become was real, but at what cost? I closed my eyes, the memories flooding back. The teasing, the transformation, the parties, the whispered threats, the moments of unexpected tenderness. And then, deep inside, I felt a quiet truth stirring. Maybe this wasn't the end of me, but a new beginning. When I opened my eyes, Mia smiled warmly. "I knew you'd understand." I took a deep breath, stepped away from the mirror, and walked toward her. Not as a prisoner, not as a victim, but as someone ready to embrace a future unknown. Months later, I found a strange peace living as Ally, stronger, more confident, yet carrying the echoes of who I used to be. Mia and I had a new understanding, no longer captor and captive, but something more complicated. Life hadn't been easy. It never is. But in the mirror, I finally saw someone whole. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.